Hello and welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I am your host. Today, I am joined by some of the most illustrious guests in the world. Today, we have back on the show once again, Ben Mattinson. Welcome back, Ben. How's it going, bud?
Good, thanks. How are we doing?
Oh, good. Nigel, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Big golf tournament this weekend. You excited?
Yeah, and it's the reason why I'm missing a home game at Arsenal for the first time
Oof.
in a long time.
You know, you can't make them all. Back for the third week in a row, making a bid again to jump up a line, Sean Miller. Welcome back, Sean.
Some of the most illustrious guests in the world and me.
And you will even allow you on.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I another regular contributor whose name is not mentioned on the list. Dabo, how's it going, bud?
As Mikel Arteta would say, it's a disgratia that I'm not on that top line. Outrageous, yeah. Lost in translation.
Yeah, it was lost in translation. And then we have some new friends to join us this week. We have Mons. Mons, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. Apologies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man. Good to be here. Good to be here and talk some football, man.
Awesome. It's going to be a good show. We've got a lot to get to. And we are also joined by Will. Welcome to the show, Will.
Yes, hello. Nice to meet you, everyone. Looking forward to it.
All right. So let's get to it. We got lots to get to. It's a big day, the day before transfer deadline day. And of course, follow the podcast on X at We All Follow Pod, please. All right. Game week 2. We had two hat tricks and a non-celebration celebration. Ben, what was your moment of the week? See, that's a trademarked thing. It's not really trademarked, but we're gonna pretend that it's trademarked. What's your moment of the week?
I mean, it's got to be Madueke. Like the whole post that he put on his story. I don't know if I can say exactly what he put, but cussing out Wolverhampton and then going and scoring a hat trick, especially after people have been like saying, "Oh, shall we sell Madueke?" And then midweek and then on the weekend he's scoring and he gets a hat trick. Like, yeah, that's got to hurt if you're a Wolves fan.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty uncomfortable. Wolverhampton is poop, and then you take a major L on the weekend. Nigel, what do you have for me? Moment of the week.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been dead easy and just about the preview to SummerSlam at the Vitality Stadium where Joelinton went full Ultimate Warrior clothesline on Neto. But I'll leave that one for Will. And the moment of the week is the 0.86 XG chance missed by Ollie Watkins, or should I say saved by David Raya. 14% chance of saving it, and he pulls off a worlder. Can't beat it.
Both of those, you had two moments of the week, which is absolutely cheating, but we'll allow it this week. Sean, what do you got for me?
Well, I was going to go with that Madueke, that 15-minute period where they scored 3 goals, but I'll pivot a little bit and say that, the West Ham second half there against Palace, I think a lot of people kind of looked at Palace as one of these teams that could push on this year, but I thought maybe it was West Ham, and they did in that second half, and they scored 2 big goals. And after they played pretty well against Aston Villa, I thought that was a pretty big win on the away in South London.
Yeah, big one for my top 4 pick, West Ham, coming back to start to redeem me. Will, what do you have for your moment of the week?
I think I'm going to have to go with that Joelinton moment, thinking he joined the WWE, just clearing out the Bournemouth goalkeeper. It was funny to see, and obviously glad he got away with it as well from my point of view.
Yeah, that was a spectacular WWE chokeslam. Dabo?
I enjoyed a little midget midfielder being twatted by a Ben White thunderball after he fouled Saliba. Watched it live in the flesh, literally right across from me, and I celebrated that moment like a goal. So it was fantastic to see. It's what the Premier League's about.
Premier League heritage. Mons, moment of the week.
Now, depends if I'm going for hate or love here, but I think it has to be João Pedro's last
Both.
minute. In fact, you know
You can
what?
do both.
I'd say, do you know what? I'll say João Pedro's last minute header, because genuinely, like, for Brighton, again, to go and get the win and what they're putting together, losing their manager, some of the players from last season not starting, I think it was well deserved. And I think one of the moments that I loved as well was I think Luis Diaz actually, like, you know, hitting the net cleanly, because that's something we haven't seen too much recently. Yeah. So to see him run through and goal and confidently tuck a chance away, that's just something I hope he can build on. So not exciting moments, but yeah, it was just two moments that, you know, stood out to me.
Yeah, there were some good ones this week. Some that I think will make it into the final cut of this 24-25 season compilation. You know, definitely that choke slam is going in there. I don't know about any of the other goals from this week. Kind of depends on the outcomes. But that brings us into game week 3. So this week we have game week 3. We have some big matches. We are going to, well, let's do it. That's fancy. We're going to start with Man U Liverpool. So that's why we got you on, Mons, Sean as well. So as always, we say that this is a show by adults for adults. So let's keep it kind, if not intentionally painful. But who wants to go first? Sean, Mons, who's up?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think, you know, last week when I came on, I said, look, we got to get through these 3 matches. You know, if you can get points, that would be great down at Brighton, because I think at the end of the year that you know, any point you get at Brighton is going to be pretty big. And, you know, they're well on the way. You know, really unlucky with the, you know, you saw in the chat, the Xerxes, you know, the ball basically in the net and kind of taking the goal away, the late goal. But I thought they played pretty well. I thought it was an open game. Both teams had chances. And, you know, I think everybody here on the show has been talking about how Ten Hag might not be there by the end of the season. I thought his substitutions were pretty awful. You know, I think, you know, you're in the game. You're playing well. You had that chance to go ahead. You know, it's 1-1. Look, if you get out of there with a draw 1-1, that's not the worst thing in the world, right? So I think they're playing pretty well, and they just kind of blew it. You know, going into this week now at home, you know, look, you got Liverpool. It's always a big game at home, obviously, against Liverpool. You know, I thought they played pretty well. And once again, I'll just reiterate, I think they'll be better after the break. You know, you're going to get Haaland back. You know, I don't know if Ugarte starts in this game, but hopefully he does. I think we're getting closer to where we need to be. But, you know, obviously tough game here. And, you know, I think most people think that Liverpool is probably going to win this game. Oh yeah, you guys, that's my vuvuzela from the 2010 World Cup, by the way. So yeah, got the setup down here. So, but yeah, look, once again, you get anything from this game, I think you move on. You get to the international break, you get healthy, and then you go from there. Because I think after the break, I think they'll be all right. They have a pretty decent run of fixtures.
Yeah, it'll be it's gonna be a big game, obviously. That was a mistake. There we go. Mons, what's your take on the game from the Liverpool perspective?
I think just from a Liverpool perspective, this is going to be our first test, and that's no disrespect to Brentford. It's no disrespect to Ipswich Town, but those are 2 games I just expect Liverpool to win. It doesn't matter, I guess, if we blitz them 7-0 or, you know, we've just maybe shaved it by 1-0 or a 1-goal deficit. It's just that I wanted to see a performance. I wanted to see a change in style. I wanted to see the differences off the ball, on the ball. And going into this Man United game, I need us to kind of continue those patterns of play, those fast breaks, being more defensively rigid as a team, not leaving, you know, previously in the Klopp system, it'd be a lot of 1v1 defensive battles with Konate and Van Dijk, Trent as well, who again defensively maybe shouldn't be left in one. No, he shouldn't be left in 1v1 opportunities, if I'm honest. But that's usually what's is played into Manchester United's hands. And I've always said that Man United on transition, no matter how bad Man United can be, how low it can get, the form off or on. Man United will always hurt teams in transition. From Oli to Van Gaal to any manager they had, it's always something that they've always had ingrained in them. So I feel like now playing on the slot, I feel like the fast breaks and the high line won't be as easy for Man United to kind of expose. And I think Man United kind of like that. They like that when you can kind of go pound for pound, make it like sort of a basketball game. And as a Liverpool fan, I'm looking forward to it because genuinely, I just think we're better than them. I think we have better players, we have a better structure, and we're more consistent. But at the end of the day, I think Man United have the know-how. They definitely have players who know how to just get a result, stick it in the top corner, moments of magic. I think that's what, it's what got them the FA Cup. It's what got them the Carabao the season before that, sorry. And it actually is what held them in and around that top four before that, the fall off did start to happen at the latter end of last season. So all in all, I'm quietly confident, but I think a lot of the Man United fans are going to be confident just because last season there were 2 draws and obviously they won in the FA Cup. So that's probably where I'm standing with it at the moment.
Nigel, I can see you wiggling in your chair. What you got?
I actually agree with what both people just said. And as someone who, I get quite a bit from Man U, and my worry for Man United in this game, I actually think it'll, like Mont said, I actually think this will be a nice scoring draw, just like last season. And the only reason I think that Man United will get a draw is because I just think that home crowd will just get them over the line. I'm actually worried for him in respect of how. So we all talk about, we've changed our pressing structure, we've changed that. Mason Mount has kind of been doing like an Ødegaard job where he's been leading the press. He's injured. The only other guy who really presses properly is Haaland. He's injured. So the 2 people who you kind of want to lead the press, they're not going to be there. I just think that Man United are very, very slow in the middle of the park. And buying Ugarte doesn't even fix it for me because he's slow as well. He ain't covering ground like Usain Bolt. So you've got Mainu and you've got Casemiro, and Mainu runs as quick as Casemiro's shadow moves. So I actually think that Liverpool, if Liverpool can stretch that midfield, stretch that out, make Man United commit to the press, but then push their strikers high up the pitch, you could stretch Man United out. And if you stretch them out, that midfield is not mobile enough, which is where Liverpool can have all their success. On the flip side, I think Man United have got best chance getting Liverpool drawn onto them so that then they can absolutely ping balls and do their transition game where they get Rashford and Fernandes. Fernandes is deceptively quick, isn't he? He actually can move with the ball. And he moves it quick as well. But if you've got Xerxes starting, Xerxes got a bit of pace as well. I just think that's Man United's best chance. And I do think that we're going to be a little bit stronger at the back now, especially if they've got to start De Ligt, because I know Maguire's not done bad, but you're going to have to start him sometime. If not, it's a waste of spending 38 million, isn't it?
Yeah. Will, when you look at this match, a trip to Old Trafford is never easy. Do you think Liverpool can get the job done this year?
Yeah, I think it will be a close game, but I do expect Liverpool to get over the line in this one just because I think Liverpool have got better quality players, in my opinion. I also think, though, it does largely depend on what team Man United decide to go with. So Ten Hag's looked quite rigid at the start of the season. He hasn't really brought in too many of the new signings yet. I know Xerxes and De Ligt were both on the bench for last game. I'd personally like to see both of them come in. He seems to be insistent on playing with some sort of false 9 when he went out and bought Xerxes, one of the most promising forwards in Europe last season. So I'd really like to see him start. I think he could be effective on the break because I'm expecting Liverpool to dominate the possession, try and play that sort of Arne Slot football, try and keep them pressed in their own third. But obviously that's going to create opportunities for Man United on the counter-attack, which is they've got players that can be effective. I'd like to see Garnacho come in as well for Rashford personally, which I know some Man United fans would like to see. But I think depending on what team Man United go with will determine the match. I think Liverpool seem to have a bit of stability about them already. I know people would say the first couple of games have been an easy couple of games, but also if you go and drop points in one of those games, like we've already seen Tottenham drop points at Leicester, then it's only easy if you win it. You can only beat what's in front of you. So I've been quite impressed with Liverpool so far, and I think Liverpool will just edge this one, in my opinion.
Matt, I got a quick question if I could ask for Ben or Nigel, just about Manchester United and this change in the transfer policy. Obviously, they're getting rid of Deadwood, that all these players that they sold, and they're bringing in players like Sekou Kone from the Malayan side, the U17, maybe shifting to younger players and trying to find these guys. I mean, have you been a little bit, Ben or Nigel or whatever, have you been impressed about maybe how they've gone about that, shifting out this Deadwood, which they haven't seemed to be able to do for the last 5 or 6 years, and bringing in some younger Lenny Yoro as well?
Yeah, I would say it's an improvement in the transfer strategy. I would say there's still parts I'm like, the midfield, they've almost, they've got Agate, but it feels like they've neglected it a bit, where they've focused a lot on defense. They've got Zertsky, and I'm like, was he really needed with Haaland? I think he's a really good signing, don't get me wrong. And I think he'll work really well with the runners that they've got, like Rashford and Garnacho. But the one thing I have noticed about the recruitment is it seems like they're looking to raise the physical floor of the team and the ceiling as well. If you look at everyone that they're getting, the height, the physicality with Yoro, Zertsky, Agate, Delict, Mazraoui even at fullback, these are all guys that are good balance of technical ability and physicality. It's a good starting point, but to me, there's still, I don't know how they could look at that midfield from last season and think, oh, let's just get one. I think if they were to get 1 or 2 more before the deadline, then it could be a very solid window. But I'm also not too convinced about the manager, I'll be honest. But yeah, I think it's an improvement, and they've got better people in the recruitment team now. But I've got this thing where I'm like, you're bringing in Dan Ashworth and these great minds in terms of recruitment, but at the same time, you're still signing players that Ten Hag knew from Ajax. I'm like, I don't quite understand it. Do you know what I mean? That's the one thing I thought with the guys coming in that might change, but clearly hasn't. So we'll see.
Nigel, how much do you think that has to do in terms of them not having Europe this year, right? Because obviously they're happy to pay big wages, and that's something that attracts players no matter what. They have the history, right? They have the trophies. They've won stuff. But how much do you think that not having Europe plays in terms of player recruitment, even if it's just for 1 year?
Who's not in Europe?
Not having Champions League. They're in Europa League.
Oh, you mean, yeah.
Right. That's because of FA Cup. Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. They're in the Europa League. So they're draws.
They backdoored their way on the last game of the year for the record.
They finished 8th. They finished 8th, so Newcastle in 7th didn't get in Europe, but the 8th team did. But yeah. But no, sorry, Will.
I was a Man City fan for one game, and don't remind me of that. I do think that has actually played a bit part in the recruitment side, because I think they will have wanted a tier up player. I do like Lenny Yoro. I think getting Lenny Yoro was great, but my worry is when with the players who they've got, I actually don't think they're any better than what they were last season. I think it's just changed, and they've not really. The level of the squad's not really gone up enough for me. I do like Mazraoui, but it's a left back what you need, not a right back. So they sold Wan-Bissaka, but they'll still play Dalot at right back. They're not going to drop Dalot. They need Luke Shaw gone, and they need Milasia gone, and they need the left backs. And Mazraoui is not going to be a left back for a year, and you're not going to play Dalot out of position all year. So I think that was a bit of a oversight. Renewing Johnny Evans was an oversight, especially when you've still got Lindelof, Maguire, and then you went and got Delict and Yoro, and you've got Martinez. So now you've got all these centre backs what you can't play. We never addressed getting rid of Eriksen. I've said before that the midfield was very, very slow, and then he went and got Ugarte, who was a good ball winner, but not very great, not very quick on the deck, and he's not a great passer of the ball at the top level. So that's where I just think that yes, it's been decent recruitment, but I do think that Europe did have an impact on what players they could have gone out and got. But yeah, that's.
Do you think? Ben, I actually have a question for you. Do you think that the players that they've been collecting are in mind for a different management style? And do you think is there a manager that you could see that their system would work with what they've been collecting?
I mean, the fact that they've got their ex-Ajax players, that's just Ten Hag. Do you know what I mean? I think De Ligt is. I don't like the Mazraoui signing, I'll be honest. I think what Nigel was saying is right in terms of they need a left back more. He can cover both sides, but I mean, signing someone who's that injury prone, so high risk. But I think generally, guys like Yoro and Zertsky, those are the hits for me in terms of the signings, where they could have a really high ceiling and they could fit in a lot of different teams. So I like those two signings, but Agate for me is just there's too many flaws in his game that don't suit their team. You know, he'll add a lot of physicality and duel winning, ball winning. He can cover a lot of ground, but he doesn't add a lot in terms of he's very slow turning on the ball, not very good passer at all. You don't really want to have him as your main guy with build-up play. That's kind of where him and Casemiro aren't. Casemiro's not at the elite level at that, but he's a lot better than Agate at it. So I don't quite understand it. One thing I would say though with Man United, they always seem to go for bigger names, and I thought maybe the new recruitment team might mean they don't go for the big name, and that's kind of what they need. Just a guy that can do the right job, the right profile. That's not necessarily a really high profile player, but can do the right job.
Yeah, that's fair. Mons, I wanted switching back to the Liverpool side. I know you've been watching them through preseason and the first few games. From the outsider kind of narrative perspective, right? It's like Slot is the Jurgen Klopp replacement, right? But what have you seen in terms of like how to differentiate the Slot tactics and kind of how he's approaching the game versus what we saw under Klopp?
First of all, the style is not as chaotic. That's I don't know whether that's a positive or not because the squad currently is still a Jurgen Klopp squad. So some of these players, in fact, majority of these players, a lot of them, all they know is Klopp ball. That's all they know. That's what they're accustomed to. So when we think about adapting to the manager and learning this new style, there's still a lot of uncertainty with certain players. I think for me, on the ball, we're a lot more composed. Not to say that we weren't composed and we didn't play good football under Jurgen Klopp, because we did, especially in the 18-19 season and 21-22, I believe. But I feel like what the players are doing now is trusting each other more on the ball in the midfield and playing in tighter areas and looking to control the ball with a more stylized build-up. So very much more, not just slow build-up, because you play in transition as well in this new system, but it's not as left to right switch, very much so counter pressing. So on the ball, things are more, there's a bit more style to what we're doing, and a lot more through the lines, pretty much like the Zerbi style, that thing. And I feel like it's a breath of fresh air for some of the players, some of the more ball playing players. One of my biggest frustrations is having Thiago Alcantara having to do cross country, and when really he is an elite generational ball player who will drop his shoulder and send someone probably to another stadium. But it's funny how the second that Thiago retires from football, we play in a formation where certain midfielders probably won't have to do too much legwork on the ball. I think off the ball, though, there are a lot of similarities. In fact, I don't think there's much has changed at all off the ball. I think the press is still very aggressive. It's not so much complete man-to-man press, but it's definitely a counter-pressing system off the ball, and we still want to win the ball high. And so I feel like I like the fact that there's similarities off the ball, but it's almost like a whole new system on the ball, because I think you have to have some similarities to the old system to allow the players to kind of filter over to the new style. Because I think if you go from one complete style to the other, half 2/3 of the team are going to be probably looking around at each other going, what do we do here? Or there's going to be silly mistakes. You've seen it at Chelsea. They're still going. Like Maresca called it out when he said that they're still conceding goals from the old regime. They have old habits. When Maresca came out and said that for one of their preseason games, If you look at Man United, I feel like they still concede goals like they conceded last season. You're always going to have habits from the old system, always. And I feel like us kind of easing into this new system is good for Liverpool because this isn't Arne Slot's team, essentially, is it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely not his team. We didn't sign anyone apart from Chiesa today. So,
Yeah,
thanks, FSG.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, no, all good. Let's do score predictions for this game. So we'll go. I'll go 2-1 Liverpool. Ben,
3-1 Liverpool.
Nigel,
Bearing in mind that I was spot on with Arsenal Aston Villa last week, I even told you where the goals were going to come from. I'm going to go 2-2.
All right, we got a draw at Old Trafford. Dabo,
Yeah, Nigel has literally said exactly what I was thinking. 2-2, just purely because it's Old Trafford.
Sean.
I was going to say 2-2, but I might as well be the lone one that picked Manchester United. I say 3-2 Manchester United.
3-2. Mons, who you got?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 3-0 Liverpool.
All right, big win for Liverpool at Old Trafford. Will, who you got in that one?
I'm going to go 2-1 to Liverpool.
All right, 2-1 Liverpool. All right, that wraps us up on this match. Let's go to our next match of the weekend, which is going to be Newcastle Spurs. Dabo has drawn the short stick and will be representing Spurs in this conversation.
With an Arsenal top on, yeah.
With an Arsenal
with
top
an
on.
Arsenal top on.
Somebody's got to do it.
I'm going to be like Kylian Mbappe when his Twitter was hacked and when someone said what they think of Tottenham. Shit, that's me right now. That's where I'm at.
Will, why don't you start us off on what your expectations for this game are? You know, coming up against the high line and mullet of Ernst Postecoglou.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this game on the weekend because I don't know how much of our games people have caught. You might not have seen a lot of us, but we haven't started particularly well, I'd say, in any of our first couple of games. And even last night in the Cup, we're sort of having spells in games where we're playing okay, but we're just not quite looking like the Newcastle that we have been in the past. I know at times last season we weren't too great. Our away form wasn't great, but I would say the one thing I would say is that at home it is quite a difficult battle to beat us at home. We're generally pretty good. I think we've only lost 5 times in the league in the last 2 seasons at home, so it's a pretty good record. Not quite Man City's level, but obviously it is a difficult place to go. And I think the fact that if Spurs do go with that high line with the attack we're likely to have, it could be Barnes, Isaac, and Gordon. They're all pacey players that thrive on having space and having that attack. So I largely think that how this game goes is going to come down to how Tottenham approach the game, really, because if they haven't learned their lessons from the last couple of seasons at St James's Park and they try to go with the high line again, then I think we're going to get at least 2 or 3 goals, and I then expect us to win the game. And it's strange to say because on paper Tottenham are a much harder team than our first couple of games, but quite often Newcastle can look worse when somebody sits in and we have to break teams down, whereas almost a bit like what Man United were last season, where they're like hitting teams on the break. We're a bit similar to that. That's what we thrive off. So I think it's going to be interesting. I've watched Tottenham's first couple of games as well. I was impressed with them last week against Everton, I will say. And they've definitely got dangerous players. I know I was at Tottenham away last season when Heung-min Son rinsed Trippier for the 90 minutes. So personally, I'd like to see Livramento starting on that right-hand side on Sunday. I think he's just got a bit more agile, probably a better matchup for Son. But I think there's going to be goals. There's no doubt about that. I expect to see. I'll be surprised if there's not 3 or more goals in the game. And I think it's going to be quite an open game. It should be a good game for the neutral, but maybe not too nice to watch as a Newcastle fan. I might have a few head in my hands moments, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Sean, what did you have on this one?
I haven't been super impressed by Newcastle, to be honest. I mean, they just don't seem like just seems like the engine hasn't started yet, if that makes sense. Like they're just kind of sputtering out of the gate. I know Spurs didn't play great in that first game. I mean, they probably should have won that, but I think going to Newcastle, I just think Spurs are going to be able to score some goals in this game. I think Spurs maybe 3-1, something like 2-1, something like that. I think Spurs, as this season goes, I mean, I think we've talked about it. Nigel talked about it a lot. They're going to score a lot of goals. Maybe they're going to give up some, but in a game like this, I think when Newcastle's been struggling to score a little bit, I think it goes to the team that maybe can play a little bit better offensively and put the ball in the net. So I think I would side with Spurs here.
Well, turning it back to you, Will, what did you feel like was what kept you guys from winning last week's game against Bournemouth? Because you guys had a fair amount of possession.
Yeah.
What did you see in that one?
I mean, I think there was a lot of factors last week. The problem is last week is we were trying to play out, and the fact that we've got Burn and Kraft at centre back. Obviously, you've got Bournemouth, one of the highest pressing teams in the league, and to be honest with you, we just couldn't get out of our half for large spells of the game. We just didn't have the quality on the ball. I would say it was missing. Even Longstaff in the midfield was sloppy. Joelinton was sloppy. Isaac wasn't in the game. I'd say the only player that really came out of it with any credit for the majority of the game was Bruno Guimaraes was making things happen, and he was finding passes, but overall the quality of the team just wasn't quite there. We were getting turned over. We seemed to be losing the second balls, which doesn't normally happen with us. That's normally what we pride ourselves on. So I think we need to see that intensity back if we're going to get something from this, because obviously Spurs have got the quality and they've got the players. If we give them opportunities, they will score goals with players like Son. I think Solanke might still be out for this one. I'm not sure, but obviously they've still got other good options: Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, people like that. So people that can hurt you. And yeah, I think really that's the main thing that we need to see. But that quality on the ball, the likes of Livramento, Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton, if Tonali gets a game, people like that, they really need to step up and find them passes and just not let us get sucked into that sort of game. We need to try and get a bit of control if we can.
Yeah, it's interesting. Shar is suspended again for this game, correct?
Yeah, one more game, yeah.
Okay, and I mean, you guys already have quite the injury list, which was one of the key problems of last year. Dabo, based on the defenders that we have coming in for Newcastle, do you think that Spurs will be able to take advantage of that with their front line?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's exactly like Sean said it before. It's something that we've discussed in length. I know we mentioned it quite a few times in the season preview, and it's already happening. Spurs have scored 5 goals across the 2 games, scored 4 against Everton. So they've got dangerous players, and when it clicks, then they are a dangerous team. But obviously, like Will was saying on the counter to that, they are susceptible to that counter because of the high line that they play. And Ange is one of those managers that so far he hasn't seemed to kind of turn his back on the style that he wants to play. He's very much kind of like Arteta in the early days, not in terms of the style that they play exactly, but in the fact that there was, apart from the kind of 6 months where Arteta took over and we won the FA Cup, after that, we were playing the system that we wanted to play, and we kept at it and kept improving it until it worked. And I think that's the same with Ange. But obviously at the moment, I think with that, we saw it last season, they are susceptible to goals on the counter-attack. So I think Spurs can get at them. I think it's just who's more efficient in the way that both teams are going to attack. So are Spurs more efficient in the way they can break down Newcastle, or are Newcastle more efficient in the way that they can counter against Spurs? And I think that's where the game could be won or lost. But it's definitely a game where you can see a lot of goals going in with potentially, you mentioned Newcastle's struggles at the back, but at the same time Spurs being hit on the counter. So it's going to be an interesting game. But I think that the main takeaway from that is it's a big game like that at St James's Park, which could just be the catalyst to kind of get Newcastle going, because we've seen it last season when they played PSG. It was like raucous basically at the start of the season. They beat them 4-1. They do seem to turn up. When we went there, it was a fiery game early in the season. They got the 1-0 win. Obviously, it was fairly controversial, and you can still debate what happened, but it happened, and they still played well, Newcastle. They still took the game to us, and I think they'll do the same against Spurs. So it'll be a good game. But I think it's just who can have that better efficiency in attack will be the champions.
Yeah, definitely going to be a kind of back and forth kind of game with the high line and kind of the missing defenders in that whole situation. Nigel, any last words on this one?
I think Dobbo's nailed it, and I think this is another Man United Liverpool where you've got a team who I still think that Tottenham are very, very naive defending, even though all their fans think that they've got the best back four and like the top 3 back four in Europe. Yet they conceded 59 goals last season, whatever it were. They're just naive. They defend naively, and they are awful at defending set pieces. Newcastle are pretty good at set pieces, and I just think if Isaac's on form, Anthony Gordon looks like he's playing for a move to Liverpool, so he's putting some performances in. Harvey Barnes is fit again. So you see, people don't realise that Newcastle bought Gordon to play right wing. Harvey Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right, and that's either side of Isaac. That's very, very good. So if Newcastle start firing, Newcastle can easily score 2 or 3 goals. On the flip side, Tottenham, if they start getting hold of the ball, I'm a bit worried about Newcastle with Burn. Is it going to be Kraft at the back, or have you got anyone back? Is Botman back? No. Is Lloyd Kelly? Will Lloyd Kelly play?
Going to be Kraft and Burn, potentially Kelly, but I doubt it. Yeah. That's probably what it'll be.
And then Trippier's dropped, so it's going to be Livramento and Hall probably at fullback. I think Newcastle are really susceptible at the back, and as good as he is a shot stopper, Nick Pope's always got one in him, and that'd be my worry. That'd be my only worry for him. So yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good end-to-end game, but I do think that the Gallagher does suck the ball, just like at Anfield, the Cop sucks the ball into the goal, and Newcastle, the Gallagher has got a tendency to suck the ball into the goal in the second half. So
yeah,
that's it.
Last words, Will, before we do score predictions.
I mean, I am really looking forward to seeing Sandro Tonali back at St James's Park in the Premier League. I think I'd imagine Wall Flags are going to have something ready for that. It should be a good display on the weekend. But I mean, I think everyone summed it up quite well. I'm expecting to see a bit of a basketball game, quite an open game. Definitely one I'd be tuning into if I was a neutral. It should be a good game. And I think the quality of both attacks and the weaknesses in both defense should see goals, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a goal-filled match. I have it 4-2 Newcastle is mine. It's going to be one of those with probably like what should be 3 red cards, but only gets 2 yellows. That's my take. Ben, what do you got?
It's definitely going to be a high-scoring game. I think maybe like a 3-3. I think if anyone wins, it will be Newcastle, but I'm going to say 3-3.
For the record, Anthony Taylor is refereeing this match. Oh, it's going to be Matt. Sorry, Ben. 3-3 for you?
Yeah. I think it'll be a mad game. Like what everyone was saying, the attacks. Isaac as well. He always loves a goal against Tottenham, and it's just about what Ange does. If he adapts, they might get something from it. If they don't, you're playing into Newcastle's hands. I can't see them. I can see it being a lot of goals. That's my point.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Nigel?
Second Desmond of the week. 2-2.
All right, high scoring draw for Nigel. Dabo, what do you got on this one?
I'm going 3-2 Newcastle.
Okay, sounds good. Mons, what's your take on this?
I'm just whenever Spurs are away to Newcastle, I just can't see Spurs winning. I'm sorry, forget all the variables that I love to come with, but I done it last season. I thought, you know what, when they were 3-0 down in 13 minutes, I thought, you know what, it's a one-off. following year, it was the same. It was the same decimation of Spurs at St James's, and I think that's now Spurs' new bogey stadium. And obviously Southampton was very disappointing, and the first game a little bit disappointing as well for the standards I hold Newcastle to, especially with no Europe. I actually have them doing quite well this season, but I think this is probably Newcastle's game to blast off again and to get that confidence back. I'm gonna go 3-1 Newcastle, comfortable as well.
Yeah. Will?
I think it's going to be a close game just because I'm not convinced by that defence that we've currently got out, but I'm going to back my team. I'm going to go 3-2 Newcastle.
All right, 3-2 Newcastle. So we have a unanimous Newcastle win in this match, which brings us to our last game of this match week that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, we can talk about whatever you guys want after that. But the next one is Arsenal hosting Brighton. Ben, do you want to get us kicked off on that one?
Go on then. Yeah, for me, I can't see Arsenal not getting a result here. I think Brighton's biggest threat is the wingers, the 57 wingers that they've got in their squad. So direct at times and running in behind. The difficulty with this game would be because Arsenal are at home, we constantly retain possession in their half, and then they're able to quickly counter and get down the other end, which is why I think the fullbacks are going to be really important again this week, and also guys like Rice and Partey really screening the back line and preventing any transitions. I think if you're able to nullify that, then I think this is a routine win and probably another clean sheet again. But their attack, the quality they've got in attack with guys like Pedro, Matoma, Minte, Adingra, there's so many. And even, to be honest, Welbeck, he gets overlooked a lot, but he's still very useful. And he's one of those strikers that really facilitates for everyone else. So it will be an interesting matchup for Arsenal. But I think defensively, we've just got so many options now. You've Timber started the last game. You might even see Calafiori start. I would like to see it. And then maybe give Zinchenko minutes later on, because I don't think we should play him in the 2 games after that. But it'll be an interesting one, and hopefully we might even see Marino get some minutes as well. I think this is one of those games where we could start to build up some match sharpness from some of the players. But yeah, I'm hoping for guys like Saka again to just really, I think this is his season, like to really take on I'm the main guy in this team. And we're seeing it little moments like him shushing the crowd against Villa or his celebration in the game before. This would be another game where I can see him, nicking a goal or 2.
Yeah, as Saka begins to step up, we had that big Emi Martinez save, as I called last week on the pod, that Emi Martinez was going to go supernova against us, and he did with one spectacular save and one spectacular flailing octopus tentacles dive. Dabo, how do you see Arsenal lining up with Brighton this week?
I think that it will be the same as Villa, to be honest. Purely from the fact that I can see why Arteta would start Trossard, because it's against Brighton. You've always got a kind of the bit between your teeth against your old club. And he came on and he justified the fact that I'm putting down a marker to start because he came on and 50 seconds later he was on the score sheet. But my thing is, when you look at the right-hand side of Brighton's defence, they've got Van Hecke and Veltman, I think, that they've played for the last 2 games. So in moments where they're trying to get us on the transition, we need that outlet of pace that can get in behind those spaces. And we saw it quite effectively a couple of seasons ago at the Amex when Martinelli scored that fantastic goal where Odegaard literally one ball completely tore them apart. And Martinelli was in behind because he was just way too quick. So I think that we need to have a bit of that pace on the transition, but then also on the right-hand side, you've got the dynamic where we can break them down, where Ben said we're going to have a lot of possession. So I think that we're going to go for the same lineup as Aston Villa. But the problem is Arsenal now have good options all over the pitch, to be honest. I don't think Mikel Merino's ready to play because obviously he had a small injury as well. We came back from the Euros. He's not actually played any competitive minutes really for Sociedad. And he was doing some individual training as well as group sessions. So I don't think he's ready there. But I think it's going to be the same team as Villa. And like Ben said, their wingers are really technical and that's where they can hurt us. So Zinchenko would be great in the build-up. Calafiori would be great defensively, but I think Timber kind of offers you that best of both worlds in the fact that he's physically strong as well. He's quick. He can help defend in the transition, but at the same time, he can step into the midfield and help us break Brighton down when they are sitting deep in Arsenal's half.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like you said, they have those two defenders, and then they have Milner sitting in front of them, which that's screaming out for a pacey winger. And I think is just gonna further piss off Trossard, in the best way, as he goes up against his former club for another time. Mons, have you seen the new Brighton 2024-25 Brighton? Because we had Lewis on last week, and he was talking about how they're a lot more transition oriented, looking to move the ball quickly out of the back. How do you think that's going to play against the pressing of Arsenal? Do you think that they can make it through, or do you think that they're going to get caught out more because of that?
From the Brighton I've seen, but I didn't watch their first game too much. I tuned into a little bit of the Everton game, but I caught most of the United game. I think the new Brighton team, they still have a lot of their passing fundamentals. They love to play through the lines. I think that's still going to be their philosophy, from what I've seen anyways. And I'm a big fan of Adingra. I think Adingra is one of the best young left wingers in the league. And that's probably a stretch for some of you guys. A lot of people think that's too far out there, but I genuinely think, I know Minte's got a lot of hype, and a lot of Newcastle fans aren't too happy about him going for such a low fee, considering the injuries they've had on the wings and stuff. But yeah, for me, Adingra, I understand he probably still has to develop, but with what he brings is his trickery, his unpredictability, his agile. Even as a Liverpool fan, he's hurt us a few times as well. I think if you get him playing and you get Matoma playing, whether that's on one side or the other, or Matoma drifts in central, I think Brighton can hurt any team. It's just that Arsenal, for me, are so defensively organized. I just can't see them consistently or having a long enough spell to hurt Arsenal, because I do think Brighton, as I said, is still the De Zerbi way. I don't want to call it the De Zerbi way because Potter actually is the one who instilled a lot of that football style. I think De Zerbi will get the plaudits for it because it was more, that's where the big sales of the McAllisters and the Caicedos, but Potter was a massive part in that philosophy before that. And I do think it probably is the same Brighton with a few differences. I don't know how you say his name. Is it Belba or Beleba? The young midfielder, the young center midfielder for them.
I think it's Baliba, like Saliba, but
yeah, like Baliba. He for me, his cameo against Manchester United. If any young midfielders coming into a game and they want to know how do you impose yourself on boss of midfield that isn't as mobile, go and watch him. Him or obviously Rodgers versus Arsenal in the Villa game. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you get the right players on the ball, Brighton are going to be a dangerous team. But Arsenal, without going too much into the Arsenal thing, they're just too organized. The system is polished. The system is it's like a well-oiled machine. And you saw Villa got the better of them for big parts of the game, but 2-0 victory, clean sheet, you move on to the next one. And I think it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be exactly the same score going into the Brighton game. And it's not even just to Brighton. I just think it's more of a compliment to what Arsenal are doing at the moment. Everyone talks about, are they going to score enough goals? Have they done enough to catch City? But the only hole in their team I see is on that left wing. Apart from the problems on the left wing, I think everywhere else they've kind of showed up, and it's just about consistency. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Will, we had Mont's pick of 2-0. Who do you got on the Arsenal Brighton match? What's your score?
Yeah, I think it's going to be 2-0 as well. I think Arsenal are just making a really good habit of these professional performances. Sweeping aside good Premier League teams like Villa away, that's a really difficult game. We saw both Arsenal and Man City lose there last season, so that just shows you the fact. Obviously, there was scares in there, but that was 2-0. But then again, Arsenal at home, it's a different question. I just think you've been so good at home. I expect Brighton will try and play football with you. They will try and play at your own game, but I think Arsenal will be better at that game. The high press, I expect Brighton will get caught at least 2 or 3 times in the game, potentially even leading to a goal. And I just think there's a bit too much quality in the Arsenal team. I think it's going to be 2-0 to Arsenal personally. Professional performance, and on to the next one.
Yeah, I've got it at 2-0 as well. I think Martinelli will start, and there's going to be a lot of upheaval around that. But I think we'll get a good goal, and then have Trossard come on and finish them off. And I think we might see another celebration. Well, Trossard likes celebrating against Brighton, so he might actually celebrate. But yeah, I think he might be a little bit salty once again. Ben, what do you think?
I hope we start Trossard. I do, because in the next 2 games, I don't think he should start in them. So it now's the chance for me. It's a bit like with Zinchenko. I think we got to play him because I don't want to play him against Tottenham or City. Also, what Monster's saying about Adingra, you know what? I think probably the reason why I like him, because to me, he's like a Mane regen. He's like another Mane. He's so similar to him. So you probably, keeping an eye on him for that reason as well. But no, I think they're getting...
Yeah, he's got the same hair.
Yeah, literally. It's something about the way how he cuts in. It just reminds me of Mane a lot. Yeah, I think for me, the thing with Brighton right now is they have changed a lot. The new manager, Herzl, is it's more fast-paced, end-to-end. But he does want to play with the ball out the back. And I'm not convinced about their defenders playing with the ball out the back. They looked a little bit vulnerable against Man United. And I think with a better press with Arsenal, I could see them conceding a goal like that. But also, one of the things with that is if they're transitional, I think they can hurt us in attack. But the other side to it is they have to sit back and defend. And I don't think their defenders are good at all at that. I wouldn't rely on... Van Heck's decent, but I'm not a big fan of Dunk. And I think if they try to do that, this could be like a 3-0. Maybe more, but I'm going to go 3-0.
3-0 for Ben. Nigel?
Ben has just absolutely nailed exactly what I was going to say. So last week, when we were talking about Brighton versus Man U, I said that Brighton's biggest problem is that their 2 centre-backs are too immobile. They don't move. They're like robots. They don't move quick enough. Van Hecke and Dunk will get pulled apart. And I said that Man U did exactly what I said they'd do. They pulled them, they made them move. They made them have to run. And as soon as Van Hecke and Dunk had to run, they were in trouble. And Man U should have won that game because they won the ball. They made the centre-backs have to defend. Hinshelwood's not bad at full-back, but Saka, like last week when I said Digne, we're going to get cooked by Saka. It's going to be Hinshelwood's turn this week where he's going to get cooked. And I just think Arsenal will just pull them apart. You need to understand that Arsenal's best 2 performances last year, forget your 6-0s, forget smashing Newcastle 4-1 at home, which was probably, that first half was probably the best half of football what we played all season. But the best 2 performances stand out. Brighton at home, when I think Brighton had about 24% possession against us or something like that, it was something stupid. I think they came into our half like once in the entire first half and about 3 times all game. And it was just literally all in their half. And Brighton away, we battered them. It was an absolute tousing away. Both times they tried playing football, and both times we won the ball quickly. Like Monts was spot on in how Arsenal's system works and the polish and the high press. And they just win the ball back quick, but not only do they win it back quick, they then move it around quickly, circulate it around quickly, and drag players into positions they don't want to go to. And Van Hecke and Dunk will get dragged, and then it's in. That's it. It's done. I think 3-0. I'm with Ben. I'll go 3-0. And just so you know, at the beginning of the season, remember, I did do my wild prediction was that Arsenal would beat Chelsea's goals against record this season. So they can only concede 14 goals in the league to beat the record. If they don't concede this week, I'm ahead of schedule because I worked out that it's one every. If you concede one every 3 games, that's 13 goals. Yeah, so we'll be 2 goals ahead of schedule if we don't concede this week. That'll be 3 games clean sheet, 3 games no goals.
Dabo, I know you got to run, but sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, when you think about it, 1 goal every 3 games, bear in mind that you only play the big 6. If the big 6 played each other, that's 10 games. Yeah, that's a quarter of a season. So if you concede 1 goal in each of them games and none against the other, and none against the rest, well, we're fine.
Well, I'll just add in on that, Nigel, as well. The thing, we've got this 2 periods where we play loads of the big teams. So right at the beginning of the season, I think it's November, is it, when we've got like Liverpool and Newcastle and Chelsea, I think, them 3 in a row. If we come out of those periods conceding like no goals or 1 goal, then I'm going to be like, hey, something's happening. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Dabo, I know you got a sprint, so let's get you in on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I said it last night as well. And I'm still going with it 3-0. I agree completely with Ben and Nigel. And that's not a slight on Brighton. I think it will still be a decent performance from Brighton. But I just think at the moment, especially at home, we've just got so much. And I think we've got too much for all but a handful of clubs that come to the Emirates now. And with Nigel saying his wild prediction, mine was that Arsenal will win all 19 home games this season in the Premier League. So I've got to stick with the Arsenal win, and I'm going 3-0. And I'm also following suit with Nigel's goals conceded prediction as well. So they're going hand in hand at the moment, which is very nice.
It should be a good one. Thanks for jumping on. We'll see you again next week. And what else do we have? We have the other matches for this week. Any of those you guys want to have a go on? There's Brentford, Southampton.
Just quickly, Chelsea are losing. Chelsea are losing 2-1 to Servette in the
They're
Euro.
losing to a napkin. The Serviette.
They're losing to 4-ply FC. That's what they're losing to right now. So I don't know, man. one more goal, and I believe it's 3-3 on aggregate. So they score another goal, and Chelsea are in trouble. Interesting stuff.
Yeah,
77.
No away goals now in Europe as well. No away goals in Europe. So
it's actually 2-4 on aggregate right now. So they have to score 2 more to make.
Chelsea's just equalised.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, just as soon as I said that. Oh, as soon as I said it,
the dream's over. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, the only other game really to talk about is, Crystal Palace will get a result at Chelsea anyway, but because Eddie Nketiah will score. But the only other one to talk about really, just quick, fleetingly, is West Ham Man City. I think that's going to be a good game. I mean, West Ham City will be a good game. I think West Ham could cause City a lot of problems. I actually see West Ham scoring in that game as well. So if they do what they can do, I think that that could be interesting for us at the top.
Yeah, there's a few that West Ham got signings that I really like, and even the ones like Wan-Bissaka, right? From a Man United point of view, obviously he's not the best on the ball, but West Ham aren't going to really play with the ball a lot. And you've got a situation here where he's going to come up against pacey wingers where that's his game. Do you know what I mean? And then Todibo at the back as well. I think it might be a tough game. I don't know with West Ham though. It's just the manager for me that always makes me doubt them. But I think that they've got a lot of individual players I really like especially on the counter, like having Kudus and Bowen and all of them lot. Yeah.
It's still 3-2. Wait. It's still 2-1 Servette. Nicholas Jackson was offside.
Oh, offside.
Shock.
They're checking it. VAR's checking it now.
Fair enough. Will any of these games stand out for you? You also have the Chelsea Crystal Palace game. That one should be pretty interesting from a neutral perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Crystal Palace could cause Chelsea problems. It's just the problem the problem with Chelsea, or what has been the problem in the last couple of seasons, is just the inconsistency. So obviously they had that brilliant performance last week against Wolves, but when I watched the highlights back, I think Wolves were quite naive as well. Madueke's hat trick, if anyone's seen it, Cole Palmer got the 3 assists. I think all 3 goals were identical, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with the Wolves coach and staff there. They've clearly not identified the space that was being left on that side. So I think I'd probably see that as more of a one-off game. I'm not expecting Chelsea to go out and smash Crystal Palace. I think, obviously, unfortunately for Newcastle, it looks like Crystal Palace are keeping Mark Gahey, which is a very big advantage because they are a bit weak in the centre-back department at the minute. With obviously, I think one of their centre-backs got injured the other day. It might have been Riyad, I want to say, if that's what he's called. But I still think Chelsea will get the job done, but it could be a close game, maybe a 1-0 or a 2-1, something like that. And I expect Palace to have their chances as well in the game.
Yeah, I think you definitely gonna have an open game there. The Chelsea midfield, as much money as they spent on it, they seem to have an issue with keeping the goals out. Ultimately, right? They let in two to Wolves, and they scored 6 to make it happen. So I think they kind of got that.
I think that
vibe as well.
And just for Monster's humour as well, I do think that Everton might actually be the worst team in the Premier League ever. I think they actually might be worse than Sheffield United last season. I can see Bournemouth going there and taking out some VAR retribution against Everton, where the VAR from the last 2 games proper like goes their favour and they spank Everton 3 or 4-0. I think Everton look. They took Amadou. No, I'll say his name right. Took Andre Onana. That's not my name, mate. Took Amadou Onana out of that middle of the park, and they look awful, absolutely awful. And now they've lost the star striker as well. The star striker has gone to Marseille.
And he clowned them on Twitter today. He clowned them on Twitter today. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're in big trouble. Anyway, UCL. Do you want to talk UCL?
I agree with you there, Nigel. I'm interested in that Everton game because them sort of games, that's meant to be Sean Dyche's bread and butter. He normally picks up 3 points in them sort of games. But if Bournemouth go and get a 2 or 3-0, I think we've already seen how the Everton fans are reacting. I think it could turn really toxic really quick. So I think for Everton, I'm not even sure if a draw would be enough. I honestly think, I know it's early in the season, but I think a win's it's a big. I really think they need a win this weekend. And Bournemouth looked good, by the way. Last week.
That's what I was gonna say, Will. I think Bournemouth are the team that the name belies the quality of the team, and so you see that on the schedule, and you're like, oh, it's Bournemouth, right? And we expect 3 points, but it's not Bournemouth of 2 or 3 years ago, right? With the guy with the stripes on his sweater.
Iraola's got them playing well. I mean, the biggest worry for Everton is that they could actually start next season in the best stadium in the Championship.
Yeah, I think if they get a points deduction as well, yeah, they might struggle. I would say though, haven't they got like I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm sure I saw today there's like 2 players that they were trying to get. It looks like I can imagine them doing some last minute scrambles to bring some in because I think they really lack the quality in attack. The one thing I would say in midfield though, you know the guy who's come in, Tim Irogbenum, I think that's how you say it.
Irogbenum, yeah.
He's doing well, although Everton haven't been the best. I saw a stat and I was like, I had to like rub my eyes. I was like, am I seeing this properly? First game with Brighton, he got 9 tackles, and in the game the other day, he got 11 tackles. So like, you know, he's doing all of the work. It seems.
Is that one player? Sorry.
Yeah, one player.
He got. Oh wow.
Yeah. So in basically, I don't know. I think in the second game, who did they play? Tottenham. I don't think he did many in Tottenham game, but it was the midweek cup game that they had.
Yeah.
But Bournemouth for me, they're a serious team. So I really like Semenyo as well. Like Semenyo's a like top 6 level player, I think. But yeah, I can only see Bournemouth getting a win here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have Everton, who after 2 games have 0 points and a -7 goal differential. You know, like Nigel was saying, the championship is looking like the Zweites Bundesliga, the second Bundesliga, where you have all these massive historic clubs, some who have won the Bundesliga and have won European trophies. It's actually, I think it's the second most attended league, right? Because you have all these massive clubs that you just can't get out of it. But yeah, if I think that they should fire Sean Dyche and then bring back Sean Dyche. And I think that will do the trick. If they let him go and then they bring him back in maybe a couple months, then he can improve the second half of the season and keep them up. That's my Everton.
They have to hire Steve. They have to hire Steve Bruce in between them. So it's got to be sack Sean Dyche, hire Steve Bruce. That goes wrong. Bring Dyche back to keep them up.
1000%. And bleep tests and everything. We got it all. So let's wrap up this show. Let's touch on Champions League and any transfer news or rumors that you guys want to talk about. Champions League has the new league format, which is, I don't understand why it's confusing everybody so much, but there's what is it? 32 teams, right? Each team, 36 teams.
36.
Each team will play 8 matches, 4 matches at home, 4 matches away. The top 8 teams will go directly to the round of 16. The middle 16 teams will play each other in the round of 32, and the bottom teams will be eliminated. All right, so the draw came out today. It was a little bit different, obviously, with the pots and how they organized it, but we had some good outcomes. It's interesting. I think there's no more group of death, right? But you can have a tough draw or a good draw. I want to highlight Paris Saint-Germain's draw. They have home. They will be facing Man City, Atletico Madrid, PSV, and Girona. And away, they'll be facing Bayern Munich, Arsenal, FC Salzburg, and Stuttgart. So I just wanted to call that one out. It's going to be a difficult test for PSG's first non-Mbappe UCL campaign in some time. What stood out to you guys?
I was just going to say, if you're going to rank the big teams in hardest draw to easiest draw, PSG have definitely got the hardest draw, and I think Liverpool have got the second hardest draw. I don't know what you think, Mons. It does look like it's tough on paper, isn't it, that draw, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still, for me, 6 winnable games there. I do look at the Real Madrid game, and they're just so annoying. They just go one campaign without playing them. I'm just sick to death. The sight of that team, I'm just sick of them. But you know, it is at Anfield. Obviously, there's that infamous clip of me standing up saying this is Anfield, and when we went 2-0 up and we lost 5-2. So, you know, I'm gonna have to watch the way I speak this time around. They've got Mbappe now. Jude's obviously there as well after the whole Hey Jude thing. I don't know, man. I look at the league itself, and I think we'll still be okay. I believe. Let me just double check the 4 teams that are away from home, because I just wanted to see.
Leipzig, AC Milan, PSV, and Girona. Which I will note that I'm pretty sure that PSV has not lost a home game in like 18 months in all competitions.
Yeah. So Girona could be difficult. PSV will win that. I don't care about their record with Liverpool. Milan, same sort of thing. Good team, should still make it through the round, should still make it past those. Leipzig, I feel like will probably be better. That's better than us on the night. We'll probably get the result. Madrid, even though we're at Anfield, the less said about that, the better. Leverkusen, another tough one. I think that probably might be a draw. And I think Lille and is that Bologna? Was that Bologna?
Yes.
Bologna.
Yes.
I think Bologna even got Champions League, you know. Bologna and Lille, I think we should be winning those games at home, at Anfield, under the lights. shouldn't be an issue. I think we make it out. I don't know what you have to do to make it out of the league, but whatever we have to do to make it out of the league, we'll probably make out the league. But it's just that Real Madrid game and the Leverkusen game and arguably the Girona game. It's those 3 games. I think away from home against Spanish opposition, we can probably slip up a little bit. But I think 5 of those games should be 3 points, in my opinion. So Real Madrid, people forget Real Madrid.
I was going to say there was some people ran. There was some simulations run on the draw, and results simulation, and I think it was something like 14 times out of 16 simulations, 17 points finished in the top 8. So if you get 17, you'll be in the top 8.
Yeah,
that might not sound like a lot, but over 8 games, it
kind of is a lot.
Over 8 games, that's 5 wins, five wins and 2 draws and 1 loss.
Yeah.
So
also it depends, but again, I think everyone
gets you through.
I think also we have to remember as well that Real Madrid aren't going to win every game. I know that sounds crazy me saying that, but we've seen Sheriff get a result against Real Madrid. Yeah. They are capable of having a little stinker here and there. We've seen Tadic absolutely tear these guys to shreds. We've seen it happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we've seen. I don't even know what the score is in their game against Las Palmas. So I might need to just to double check right now. But
they was losing 1-0. They was losing 1-0, and Ollie McBurney had set it up then.
Yeah, they're still losing 1-0
as well. You know, they've got
by the way,
and Ollie McBurney playing for Las Palmas.
Yeah, you know they're still losing 1-0, right? Half time.
Wow.
So less about that the better. But, you know.
I mean, I look at Arsenal's draw, and I mean, Will firsthand, they battered PSG last year. PSG did not like coming to St James Park.
Yeah.
And I was sat watching the draw with Mrs. and daughter, and I said, I just hope that we get Barcelona or PSG out of the top group. You know, we already knew we were going to get Inter because Inter had come out. I didn't mind Inter. I thought, well, it's not a bad draw. I'd rather them being at home. But I looked on the others and I thought, I hope it's Barca or PSG because I just know that we'll beat them. We'll beat both of them easy. And I think we're going to hand PSG an absolute thousand. I can just say it.
I don't think with PSG, I think it's the mentality as well. That league they play in, they win nearly every week, and I think, especially losing Mbappe as well, you can't replace someone like that. It's impossible. Was Ugarte one of their players as well that's just left as well? One of their star midfielders. So they've had big losses. I'm not sure. I haven't been keeping up to date with their incoming.
He wasn't in favour, by the way. Sorry, bro. He wasn't in favour though. It was Vitinha put him to the bench, and he was never going to get.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, they played Vitinha most, didn't they? Yeah.
All right. They've got a lot of really technical midfielders, but they're very small. They've got Neves, Zaire Emery, and Vitinha. And I think against a physical midfield, if Arsenal were to play that, you can, beat them quite easily if you go down that route. But yeah.
I think if you look at Arsenal's defence and midfield now, sorry, Matt, I think they're all pretty much over 6 foot. So I just think that, Arteta seems to be building a really physical team that can compete with anyone. The mentality coming to Arsenal, the Arsenal crowd getting involved, I fully expect Arsenal to win that one. I think it could even be a similar game to how we did it last season.
The big thing about the UCL draw this year, and the best thing about it is Manchester City can't draw stupid teams what have got more consonants in them than any vowels whatsoever. Look like Wi-Fi passwords, the team names. And just put out B teams and get away with it. Man City's got a tough draw, and they're going to have to play proper. They're going to have to put that team out. And people keep, it's kind of segueing into transfers a little bit because people keep talking, well, Man City's got this brilliant squad. We did a little exercise where you write down all your players for each position. And at Arsenal, I'd got two players for every position. So 22 players, that's not including Miles Lewis-Skelly, 23 with him. And 24 with Ramsdale. But yeah, and no Nketiah in there. If you do that for Man City, you start struggling once you get to about 17, 18 players. Pep there was a picture out on the internet a few weeks ago saying about squad sizes. He'd got Liverpool at something like 33 people in the squad or whatever. I'm thinking Liverpool have not got 33 squad players. I think you're just including a load of youth kids here. They're not in the squad. Yeah. If Monts went and listed and wrote down all the players, 2 players for you'd probably end up with 2 players per position. And Man City haven't got that. Man City they put kids in where they need to, but a lot of the time they have people playing in other positions just to fill it out. And I think that this Champions League style draw, the way that Champions League draw is being done, I actually think Man City could be hindered by it, because it'll mean that they've got to use more minutes for a lot of them players.
And I think the same goes for Aston Villa. If we're talking about who's going to get fourth potentially, right, where we're talking about with you, Will, in that kind of hunt for the 4th Champions League spot, if you think Arsenal, City, and Liverpool are going to be the first 3. The one thing I did want to note about this draw is that it's not the game dates, right? These are just the 8 teams who will be playing home and away, right? The actual dates they're going to take place will be released on Saturday, right? So don't get your hopes up in terms of the game pacing, right? And when we look at Aston Villa in the Champions League, last year they were in Europa, right? And so you had the way that Emery was able to rotate the players in and out of that competition and in and out of the Premier League ultimately, right? He rocked up to the Etihad with a mostly changed side, right? On right after they had a Europa League tie that week. You can't do the same thing in the Champions League, and if you do, then you're gonna potentially lose out on getting 4th this season, right? Rotating, they can't afford to give up any points this year, right? And so their matches are Bayern at home, Juventus at home, Celtic at home, and Bologna at home, and then their away trips are to Leipzig, Club Brugge, Young Boys, and Monaco, none of which are going to be easy trips in this competition. Across a longer portion of the season, right? It's not the 3 games of the group stage of the past. So it's going to be really interesting with Newcastle, who's not playing in Europe at all, who's going to have 1, maybe 2 games a week, depending on how far they go in the cups, the domestic cups, and Aston Villa, who's going to have really big European competition coming to their door or having to travel on those Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, this is what's going to be interesting to me this season. I think the 2 biggest things to come from the draw is that there's more games and better quality games. And for all the teams that are competing in Europe, that's going to be, if you include the Carabao Cup as well, and then you're going to have Premier League midweek rounds because of the FA Cup moving to being played only on weekends now. So these teams that are in Europe, they're going to be playing twice a week, pretty much basically every week this season. And the ones like Nigel points out with Man City, that they do have a good squad. Well, sorry, a good small group of players. But once you get past that first sort of 16, 17, there is a quality drop off. Obviously, they've got academy players, but it's not quite the same. And for me, I think Man City are largely getting away with it because of how good their injury team is and their facilities and stuff like that. I think that's sort of letting them get away with it a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see, because this is just unprecedented. We haven't seen this many high quality games in a season, and teams like Aston Villa, Man City, people who maybe Aston Villa for different reasons, maybe because they're not used to it, Man City because they maybe haven't got the biggest squad. But it's going to be really interesting to see what the effect is on teams. And as we get into them later stages of the season, is there going to be teams that are decimated by injuries, or are people going to be able to cope with it?
Just on squad months. Just on squad months. Do you think that the quality of games in that chat and the amount of games that you have to play, do you think this really means that Slot and Michael Edwards really need to go out and buy a 6, don't they, for you? You really, really need a 6, I think, don't you? Oh,
yeah, this is the conversation, the question of all questions. Like, if Liverpool, we always want to compete on all fronts, and that's champs, FA, Carabao, and the league. But you know what Jurgen Klopp did with the squad was amazing, especially even last season. As I think some people didn't have us down as challenging, but we're back in the Champions League now. It's not the Europa League. Back in the Champions League, you need to be playing at the highest level while trying to compete, while trying to still maintain all of these things, and to not sign anyone to have one signing and to not sign a DM. When you've watched McAllister struggle in the six for the first part of the season until he finally decided to adapt, you watched Endo in the six have some good performances, but ultimately we all know he's not to the level to consistently be Liverpool's six. You look at those around you, Arsenal have Rice / Partey maybe. City have Rodri. You know, you can even throw Newcastle in there. When Tonali wants to stop going on Bet365, he's going to be there. He's still a good player that holds. They got Bruno Guimaraes as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's players with good holding midfielders. Even West Ham have got Edson Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? If any of you guys are 6 foot and have a pair of shin pads, then maybe you guys can play six if you want 100k a week. Because at the end of the day, we can't just be placing players who play in the 8 in the 6 and hoping it works. And then when they have one or two games, it's like, oh well, we told you so. Oh, we told you so. You had it in the squad the whole time. That's not how you maintain and push further and close the gap between a City and an Arsenal. Because I don't think we sit with Man United and those at this moment yet. I still think we're kind of in the middle. And how can you be in the middle and see that your team has challenged and gone on 2 decent cup runs and won one of the other ones, and then think, oh, you know what? The only position we really need is 6 and a centre back if Joe Gomez leaves. But, you know, let's see if someone else can play there. We got lucky that Endo had a few good performances. We are even lucky now that Gravy Boat, that's what I call Gravenberg, that Gravy Boat is even we're lucky that he's even able to play in the 6. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, yeah. I'm over the moon that Gravenberch can play in the 6. I'm over the moon. But it only takes one bad game for him to play poorly, and then the whole family's, oh, we should have got a 6. Well, yeah, of course he should have, but again, I'm happy that Gravenberch is getting the minutes. He's still a young player. He has the fundamentals. Does he have the discipline to keep it up? We need a 6, not just to play in the Premier League, not just to challenge, but again, you're playing Real Madrid. You know, you go through, you could be playing a PSG. You could bump into an Arsenal, bump into a City on the way up there. You were going to have to win the midfield battle in the Champions League, and sometimes playing the 8s in the 6, it's just all a bit uncertain for me. I think defensively, I think the starting 11, I still think our starting 11 is brilliant, by the way. I think our starting 11 is still very much up there. We still have the killers. We still have the Salahs, the Trents, the Van Dijks. They may be on their last season. Yes, that is a thing, but make the most of it then. Help them. Send them off with something big. You know what I'm saying? But that, if I start talking about us getting a 6, it's just it's going to go the other way. So yeah, it's very frustrating.
I'm so surprised. I am so surprised that Liverpool didn't rival Munich for João Paulinho. I thought it. I mean, Ben will tell. We said it so much. If Liverpool
honestly,
got
I wanted Paulinho a few seasons ago. In his first, so not this window, the window before, I was screaming when people were saying, "Oh, Caicedo," I said, "No, go and get Paulinho." I wanted Caicedo. I liked the idea of Caicedo, but he was still 22 at the time. He still has a lot to learn, even with the big price tag. If we're talking ready-made, I already said this. I like my center defensive mids bald, no hair follicles, because that means they don't care about nothing but ball. These guys care about destruction and distribution only. You know what I'm saying? I want my CDMs shaped like Amrabat and Fabinho. You know, those are the type of, yes, Paulinho's got hair, but he's probably going to lose it soon. Bring me ready-made, destructive centre mids, because essentially the creative players don't want to play. They don't want to play against them. They hate it.
I'm the biggest fan of Harren Ball. Me, the Ben and Matt know this. I'm Harren Ball, like 2.0. Me, I love it. So as soon as Arsenal had the chance of having Rice, Partey, and Amadou and I was like, "Oof, this is perfect for me. I'm loving this." He's the other one. I still can't believe Liverpool. He's across the road at Stanley Park, and Liverpool just have watched Amadou and Arna walk to Villa. I thought either him or Paulinho was perfect for you this year, and didn't do it. And I agree with you. I think Newcastle got Guimaraes. They've got my boy Sandro Tonali. I know he loves an acca or a long list on both teams to score, but the guy's fantastic. And not only have they got them, they've got Longstaff as well, who's a backup who can graft. So I don't get how Michael Edwards, as good as he is as well as a sporting director and his recruitment, I don't understand how they've looked at it and said, we're all right there. It baffles me, but hey, it is what it is. But we'll find out if it comes back to bite you this weekend, because I think Man United will target that position. They'll try and hit that sixth area. They'll play two 10s. They'll play twin 10s. Fernandez and another will play as twin 10s, and they'll try and hit you in that sixth position. So they'll sit off your centre backs and behind the midfield.
I think if they do that, though, they'll struggle against Liverpool. If they go too attacking like that in midfield, they might. But I think Gravenberch is like, he'll do well in the smaller games. And obviously he looked better in the last game. But as soon as they come up against better teams, I think he'll struggle there. I think he's a good rotation option for the midfield, but you still need to get someone there, because with the Champions League stuff, you could get some massive games back to back constantly, and you can't rely on someone that's not his position. He's a number 8. He's always been like a number 8. He could maybe turn into a 6, but to put that all on him, and the other guys in midfield, they're not very physical. A lot of them are more technical. That like McAllister, he's got a bit of aggression about him, but he's not really that physical. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not too sure about it, but I would say someone's got a man mark Trent outside the stadium when you play in Real Madrid, because I know Jude's going to be in his ear, have a word with him, try and get him to join in the summer. But yeah.
All right, boys. Well, thanks for jumping on, Mons. It was great to have you. Hopefully we can have you back again soon here in the future. We strive to be a home for fans of all clubs. So thanks for joining us. We appreciated your input. And same for you, Will. Thanks for jumping on today. We'll be around tomorrow doing a deadline day live stream. If you guys have some time and want to hop on for even just 10-15 minutes to talk some shit and see what happens, we're happy to have you. So thanks again, boys. And for our regular contributors, see you guys soon. Thanks for joining. Follow us on X at WeAllFollowPod, where you can get all of the updates. Like and subscribe down below. And thanks for joining.